The show begins with Leo, the most famous lawyer in the entire city. We see that there isn't a case he can't solve. He then gets into his car and heads to his office because there's a case involving a man who escaped from prison and is now missing. At that moment, his friend Rohan arrives and says, "Here is the file containing everything related to the case, and we need you to solve it as quickly as possible." Leo responds, "I was the one who put this criminal in prison before, and he might be out for revenge, so be careful. He could try to kill you because he's dangerous." Rohan replies, "Don't worry," and leaves. Meanwhile, a girl named Mira is told that she will cook for Leo as his private chef for one day. If he likes her cooking, she will become his personal chef for every event. Mira showcases her cooking skills and prepares a variety of dishes. She brings him a beautifully arranged plate. When he tastes the food, he says, "Wow," amazed by how delicious it is. He then makes her his personal chef. However, it was all just a dream that Mira had created in her mind. When she wakes up from the dream, she sees that the food is nearby. His assistant then says, "Why are you so late?" and takes the food to bring to Leo. Mira is confident that he will love her cooking. At that moment, Leo is deeply engrossed in the case and isn't paying attention to anything else. His assistant arrives with the food. The first time Leo eats it, he enjoys it and it reminds him of something from the past, but he says nothing to the assistant, staying focused on the case. The assistant later returns to Mira and tells her what happened. Mira then decides to cook the most delicious meal and prepares various dishes. However, when the food is brought to Leo, there is no response from him. Eventually, the assistant tells her, "Everyone at the office has enjoyed your food, even Balki." When Mira asks, "Who is Balki?" the assistant replies, "The dog." Mira becomes furious, feeling disrespected that her food was fed to the dog. She then approaches the secretary and says, "I want to meet with Leo." The secretary asks, "Do you have an appointment?" Mira replies, "No." The secretary tells her, "You need to make an appointment which will be available in 40 days. Frustrated, Mira leaves. Mira heads to a hotel where she usually goes when she's angry. Her friend Sayali is there, and Mira tells her everything that happened, including how she spent the entire day preparing different dishes, only for things to go wrong. Her friend tells her, "Don't be upset. I'm sure you'll find a better job." As they are talking, they see on TV that Leo has solved today's case of the escaped prisoner. That's when Mira realizes that Leo was too busy solving the case to comment on her food. Sally then leaves for work, and Mira is left alone. While she is alone, she decides to do some skincare. Suddenly, we see that Leo has rented the room next to hers. Out of nowhere, the lights go out. Both Leo and Mira leave their rooms to find out what caused the power outage. While Mira is walking by the wall, she accidentally touches Leo, who is holding a flashlight to his face. She then realizes it's Leo. At that moment, Leo feels shy because he's only wearing his bathrobe. Mira quickly goes back to her room, and we see that she actually likes Leo because he is a handsome guy with six-pack abs. But here's the surprising part. Suddenly, she finds herself at the top of a building and is about to fall, but a boy standing nearby saves her. The boy says to her, "Calm down. I know life is tough, but it's not worth ending your life over something that upset you." At that moment, Mira is completely confused and wonders how she ended up there, unaware of what made her upset. Then they arrive at a street, and we see that it isn't a new place. Suddenly, a girl walking down the street comes to her and hands her a journal. When Mira reads the journal's title, she realizes it's from 10 years ago, from 2012. The boy with her says, "That's right, we're now in 2012. Mira responds, No, something's wrong." When she looks at the phone she's holding, she realizes that such phones didn't even exist in the time she came from. As she checks the phone's date, she is shocked and begins to recall past memories. She also remembers that today is the day her mother died in a house fire. Immediately, she runs toward her home to try and save her mother, with the boy chasing after her because she took his phone. When they arrive at the house, they see the fire has already broken out, and many people are standing around, afraid to go inside. But Mira and the boy rush into the fire without hesitation. Mira sees her mother surrounded by flames, sitting unconscious. They carry her outside, and Mira administers first aid. Her mother regains consciousness and thanks her, saying, "You risked your life to save me." At that moment, Mira says, "I'll do anything to hear your voice, Mom." But then she remembers that back then, she was just a little girl, and now she's grown up, so her mother doesn't recognize her. She only says that Mira looks familiar. Then, her mother's husband and young Mira arrive, thanking her for saving her mother. Mira and the boy who saved her leave, and they start talking. Mira is impressed by his bravery. He writes his phone number and name on her hand, telling her, "Call me anytime you need me," and he leaves. When Mira reads the boy's name, she realizes he is Leo, the famous lawyer from the future, but right now, he's just a kid. At that moment, Mira stands in the street, unsure where to go, so she goes to her mother's house and sits outside. She's incredibly happy because she was able to save her mother. Suddenly, her mother sees her sitting outside the house and, without speaking, invites her to come inside, saying, "We need someone to help us at the restaurant." Mira also notices that the ring she's wearing is the same one her mother is wearing, but from the future. That night, we see Mira sitting alone, thinking about how to resolve the taxes owed due to the fire. At that moment, she gets an idea and remembers that Leo is a great lawyer. As she reflects on his future success, she decides to ask for his help to solve the big problem she's facing. Leo agrees, and she goes to his house. When she arrives, she's amazed by how big the house is. When she asks about it, he tells her, "My family left me when I was young and I've always been self-reliant." As they sit together, Mira offers him various dishes, and when he tastes them, he loves it. However, Leo is very surprised because this is the first time someone has cared for him, especially preparing food just for him. From this, we understand more about his past and where he came from. They then begin to talk about her case, and she says, "I want to solve the tax problem. If it's not resolved, we might lose our house." Leo asks, "How did you know I'm a lawyer?" She responds, "You look like a lawyer." Leo replies, "If it's based on looks, I don't think I resemble anything." The next day, the tax collector meets with her father and tells him that a significant amount of damage was done and they owe a large tax sum. Her father tries to ask for more time to gather the money. Just then, Leo arrives with a document that resolves the tax issue. When the tax collector reads it, he realizes that Leo is no ordinary lawyer, but someone who knows the law inside out. At that moment, her father is very happy and makes them all a meal. They all sit together, and after that, Mira and Leo go to the beach, where they play with the kids and spend a beautiful day together. Later, Mira takes Leo to a store and buys him lots of clothes. She also takes him to a barber, and although Leo is nervous, he gets his hair cut. After the haircut, Mira is amazed at how handsome he looks with his new style. Leo then goes to university, where we find out that he's a medical assistant. All the girls are astonished by his new look, and many take pictures of him and share them, marveling at his handsomeness. He sits next to Rohan, and we see that all the girls are sending pictures and are stunned by Leo's new appearance. When they leave class, Rohan jokingly says, "What's up with this sudden change, man? You must be in love. This transformation is too much." From then on, the two of them become best friends. At this time, Mira notices two girls bullying another girl. She approaches to stop them, but the bullied girl says to Mira, "What's it to you?" When Mira sees the girl's face, she's shocked and realizes it's her old friend Jeannie. She wonders how this is possible because Jeannie was always confident and strong, the one who encouraged and supported them all. Mira had never seen her look so weak in front of others. She calls out Jeannie's name, but Jeannie doesn't recognize her and just walks away. Meanwhile, we see Mira and Leo walking together through a beautiful garden, looking very happy. Suddenly, a man comes and steals Mira's bag, running away. Leo chases after him. At the same time, a girl from Leo's university named Sally appears and says to Mira, "Leo is mine, stay away from him or he'll leave you." Mira responds, "Do whatever you want." Sally, angry, says, "I'll show you that he loves me," and grabs Mira's hand, then pours water on herself and falls to the ground. When Leo arrives, he sees Sally lying on the ground and Mira holding a water bottle. Sally pretends that Mira did this to her so Leo would yell at Mira, but Mira says, "She's acting. It's not what you think." At that moment, Leo grabs the water bottle and pours it over his head, saying, "There's no way Mira would do something like that," and adds, "Now you've had your way." Mira is surprised that Leo defended her despite everything, and she asks, "Why did you do that? I was about to prove that I was innocent." Leo says, "I'll believe anything you say, even if it's a lie." From this, we see that Sally works near the university, but her father is a gambler who spends his life playing cards and often comes to take money from her, even threatening her. We then see Mira shopping at a supermarket and heading home, but she accidentally bumps into an older woman, and their bags get mixed up. When she leaves, Mira realizes the bag she has isn't hers. When the older woman returns home, we see that she brought the money to her husband. Her husband, who is Sally's father, wanted the money to go out and drink with his friends. When he opens the bag and finds no money, he becomes furious and beats his wife. She tries to explain what happened, but he doesn't want to listen to her. He hears the phone ringing, and when he answers, it's Mira saying, "We accidentally swapped bags. I want to meet you to exchange them." He gives her his address and says, "Come." Mira goes to the address and gives him his bag. At the same time, the older woman grabs Mira's phone and calls Leo, asking for help. Mira senses something is wrong, and when she looks around, she sees the older woman lying on the floor, unable to move. Mira tries to intervene, but the man becomes even angrier and grabs her. He also hits her, saying, "You girls don't deserve to live a happy life." At that moment, Leo arrives and threatens the man, saying he's already called the police and they'll be there in minutes. Hearing this, the man grabs the money and flees. Sayali arrives from outside and is shocked by what happened while she was away. Leo tells her to take care of her mother, then leaves. Later, Leo warns Mira that the man is dangerous and might try to get revenge, so she should stay in a safe place. Mira says she doesn't have any ID to rent a hotel room. Leo takes the opportunity and suggests she stay at his place, saying, "I can protect you if anything happens." Mira agrees because she has no other option. When they arrive at Leo's house, he shows her to her room and says, "Think of it as your home." We see that Mira is happy with how kind and caring Leo is toward her. While they are at home, they hear a knock on the door. When they open it, they see Sally, looking upset as if something has happened. Leo invites her in and asks why she's there. She starts speaking, but it's clear she doesn't know what to say as she feels shy. She finally says, "I didn't want to ask you for this, but my mother is in the hospital and she needs money for treatment. If we don't pay the hospital, she'll be kicked out without any medicine." She explains that she came to ask for some money to help with her mother's medical bills. Leo looks at Mira, expecting her to refuse, but Mira agrees and says, "We'll help you." Leo is going out today to bring money, and Sally is very happy. Then we see Sally's father with his friend, and we see that his debts have increased significantly. They are making a big plan. The next day, Mira is at a shop that sells children's stories, accompanied by Laurie, who is a young version of Mira. To avoid confusion between the adult Mira and the child Mira, we'll call the child Laurie. Unfortunately, Sally's father and his friend rented a car and were watching Mira, planning to kidnap her because they found out that Leo is wealthy. They wait until she leaves the shop. When she comes out, they get out of the car and manage to abduct her. They take her to an abandoned store and call Sally, demanding Leo's number. Sally is shocked when she finds out what her father did and doesn't know what to do. She wants to go to Leo and tell him what happened, but she is afraid. When she gives him Leo's number, they call him and tell him what happened. They demand a ransom and tell him to bring the money to a location they will specify to exchange it for Mira. They warn him not to inform the police or Mira will be killed, and they also have Laurie. When Leo hears this, he panics and doesn't know what to do. He rushes with Rohan to do as they are told. Then Sally calls them, saying her father did this, and asks if she can join them because she might be able to help. They agree, and she comes along and learns everything that happened. She says she knows the location because she overheard her father talking about it. At the same time, her father is holding Mira and tries to hit her, saying, "If you don't bring the money now, consider this your last night alive." When they arrive at the location to see where Leo placed the money, they see Leo and Rohan standing there. Leo says, "It's not manly to kidnap a girl and threaten me. Come, let me show you what being a man is. It's not like a dog to go to your wife and daughter and take money from them by force." The kidnapper gets very angry and grabs Laurie, hurting her. Everyone panics when they see her injured, including Mira, who manages to break free and pushes the man away before running away. Leo and Rohan seize the opportunity and start fighting the two men. One of them attacks Rohan with a knife, but Rohan manages to defend himself. Meanwhile, Sally's father is strangling Leo, and he can't move. But finally, he breaks free, though he is hit hard in the ribs and falls to the ground, struggling to breathe. When Mira sees Leo's condition, she grabs a stick to hit the kidnapper but is spotted and stopped. He hits her hard. Seeing this, Leo gets furious and beats up the man severely enough that he can't stand. Then he goes to check on Mira, worried and afraid something might have happened to her. He is very relieved to see that she is okay and hugs her tightly, but unfortunately, the kidnapper stands up and stabs Leo in the back. Mira cries as Leo bleeds, and we think these might be his last moments. Mira holds him tightly, not knowing if she will ever see him alive again. Then the soldiers arrive and they arrested the kidnapper. Leo is taken to the hospital, and we see that they are waiting for any sign of hope from the doctor. Mira starts blaming herself for everything, believing she is the cause of all the misfortune. The doctor then comes out of the operating room, and when they ask him about Leo's condition, he says that Leo has fallen into a coma. Additionally, there is an issue with his spine, and they don't know if he will ever wake up from the coma. Mira enters the room saying, "Don't leave me here all alone." She tells Leo, "No matter what happens, I love you, and I don't want to be apart from you." We see that she stays in the hospital for a long time without leaving, feeling responsible for everything that happened to Leo. One day, while talking to herself as if nothing is wrong, Leo suddenly responds. We see that he finally wakes up from the coma and says, "I want water." When Mira gives him the water, he asks her for her name. Mira tells him her name and says, "I am your love." It becomes clear that Leo wanted to wake up just to hear Mira say she loves him. Shortly after, Rohan arrives, and we see how happy they all are that Leo has come back. Days later, Mira is still at the hospital, taking care of Leo, cooking for him, and even feeding him with her own hands. She refuses to leave his side, even sleeping at the hospital at night. The day Leo is supposed to be discharged, we see him pretending to still be sick so that he can stay longer in the hospital and have Mira take care of him every day. Eventually, a nurse comes in and tells him, "I ran 3 tests and you are perfectly fine." At this point, Mira realizes what's been going on and starts teasing him. They return home, and Mira goes to her room. Leo follows her saying, "Are you really going to leave me alone? You know I'm still sick and need someone to take care of me all day." Mira is happy but also surprised by his behavior. She tells him that one of them has to sleep on the floor. Mira still feels guilty, believing she's responsible for what happened to Leo and thinking that if she stays with him, the same thing might happen again. The next morning, Mira starts looking for an apartment to rent and plans to work at her mother's cafe to cover the rent. When Leo finds out about this, we see him feeling sad, but he doesn't force her to stay with him and lets her leave. That night, Mira is still searching for an affordable apartment, as all the places she finds are too expensive. Leo comes to her and tells her about a website with cheap rentals. They find a large apartment at a low price. Mira thinks it might be a scam, but after speaking with the landlord, she realizes it's legitimate. When they visit the apartment, they see that it matches the pictures they had seen online. Mira agrees to take the place, but since she doesn't have identification, Leo signs the lease for her. Mira starts working at her mother's cafe and sets up a coffee stall in front of the cafe, but not many people buy from her. Leo checks on her to see how she's doing. Lara tells him that Mira is on the wrong track. When Mira sees Leo, she tells him to stay away from her so he doesn't get into trouble. Leo advises her that if she treats customers that way, they will never come back. Mira refuses to sell him anything, packs up her things, and leaves. Leo then challenges her to a bet, saying that if she sells all her coffee in 1 hour, she must treat him well. Mira accepts the bet, and we see that Leo had planned this from the start. He dresses up in a cartoon costume and hands out flyers to passers-by, encouraging them to try the coffee. Soon after, Mira sells out all her stock, and Leo says, "See, we had a deal." They take a picture together. Leo then brings her a cup of coffee from a distant cafe. Mira asks him, "Why did you bring me this?" Leo replies, "Wait, I've prepared something that will make you happy." While they are sitting there, a man in a mask gets out of a car and tells her to look behind her. When she turns around, she sees her favorite singer. She's extremely happy and gets his autograph. On the way back home, she sees her friend Jeannie walking towards the school they had left. Mira follows her, and when they arrive at the school, they see Jeannie arguing with the famous singer. We find out that Jeannie grew up in an orphanage and has only one brother, who happens to be the famous singer. They grew up together in the orphanage, but one day, a family adopted her brother because of his beautiful voice, and the siblings were separated. They hadn't seen each other for years. The argument reveals there is still tension between them. Mira takes Jeannie back home, and we see that she's happy and invites everyone to her mother's cafe. Her brother Nanu joins them, and they say, "We will always be here for you no matter what happens. Consider us as your family." We see that the relationship between Jeannie and Nanu has improved significantly. However, some girls who used to bully Jeannie take a picture of her and Nanu walking together and gossip about it. The next day, the bullies confront her and show her the photos, saying they will spread them. Jeannie panics because if the pictures are made public, it could ruin her brother's reputation. To prevent that, she takes the phone and runs away. Later that day, Jeannie returns home late, and Nanu goes to Mira to ask if she has seen her. We see that he is worried. Mira suddenly remembers something important. She recalls a vision of the future where she and Jeannie were walking together, and Jeannie fainted when she saw a cliff. Jeannie then confessed to Mira that she had once accidentally killed a girl by pushing her off a cliff, but she didn't mean to. Strangely, the day Jeannie killed the girl happens to be the same day they are currently living through. Mira tells her where they are, and when they arrive at the place, they realize it's a large, empty area. They split up to search. At the same time, the girls find Jeannie, and they try to take the phone from her, but Jeannie refuses to give it to them, throwing the phone far away, causing it to break apart. The girls get angry and start beating Jeannie, attempting to throw her off the ledge. Meanwhile, the others are searching but don't notice what's happening. Mira sees the phone lying on the ground, and when she looks up, she sees Jeannie about to fall. Just as Jeannie is about to fall, Mira catches her, but unfortunately, Mira hits her head badly. When Leo arrives, he finds Mira unconscious, and she's rushed to the hospital. After the scan, the doctor says that she suffered a serious blow and that part of her brain that controls memory has been injured. As a result, she will soon forget everyone she knows now. Leo feels devastated. He goes to see Mira, but doesn't tell her anything and brings her home. Leo starts taking care of Mira, and he says to her, "Get ready, I'm taking you somewhere," and he takes her to the beach. They take lots of pictures together, and Leo even arranges for a boat, and they enjoy the day, appearing to be very happy. In the evening, as they watch the city's fireworks from the boat, Leo gives Mira a medal engraved with his name and a beautiful message, saying, "I hope you won't forget me." The next morning, signs of memory loss begin to appear. Mira comes to Leo and says, "I'm going to make you a special meal." But as we see, she forgets how to cook, and the entire meal burns. She tries again and serves Leo the food, and though it's the same burnt food, Leo eats it without complaint to make her feel everything is okay. The next day, Leo takes her to see some giant fish that she has never seen before, and she looks very happy. Leo says, "I'll be right back, just wait for me." When he returns, Mira is confused and says, "What's this surprise meeting? Did you bring me here just to see the fish?" Leo, confused, says, "We came here together, don't you remember?" Mira apologizes and says, "I forgot," hugging him closely. The next morning, Mira wakes up and has forgotten everyone. She begins to panic and yells at Leo, asking him why he's there. Leo tries to explain that he's her love and shows her pictures of them together, but Mira doesn't believe him and storms out of the house. Leo, now deeply saddened, goes to the doctor and asks for a solution to bring her memory back. The doctor responds that there's no solution, saying it would take a miracle. Meanwhile, Mira, frustrated because she can't remember anything, finds the keys to the apartment. When she holds them, memories of Leo and everything they went through come flooding back, and she starts crying, saying, "Leo must be angry with me." At that moment, Leo is sitting in the same place where he first saw her, and we see that he's also crying, deeply upset by Mira's condition. When Mira sees him standing there, she runs into his arms, and they embrace each other, both overwhelmed with joy. Later, as they walk away from the building, with Mira's memory restored, her ring slips off her finger. When she goes back to retrieve it, Mira suddenly disappears. Leo shouts her name, realizing that she's gone back to the other world. Time passes, and we see Leo still sitting in their room. He says, "My parents left me when I was young. When I finally found someone who made me happy and loved me, they left me again. I'm alone in this world." We see that he is deeply saddened. Rohan tells him to calm down, advising him to move on and be strong. "Being like this won't bring her back," he says. "Only your faith and confidence will bring everything back." In the future, we see Mira and Leo living together. Leo says, "Take care of yourself. My love is now a famous star." Mira jokingly responds, "Oh, Mr. Famous," and the next morning, Leo leaves. When Mira wakes up, she calls Leo and he tells her, "Get ready, I've prepared a surprise for you." Leo has bought flowers and a ring to propose to her. He drives over to her place and tells her to come outside, where he is standing by the car holding the flowers. Mira starts laughing and asks, "Are you going to propose to me now?" As she walks toward him, the car suddenly explodes, leaving Mira in tears. Days later, Rohan visits Mira, who is still in tears, and he doesn't know what to say because he too is heartbroken. He tries to comfort her as best as he can. At that moment, Mira sees news on TV about an event that might have seemed impossible. Someone could go back in time to another world. She says, "I need to go back to the past," and wears the same clothes she had on the day of the explosion, preparing to return. Although the right time hasn't come yet, when the time does arrive, the door opens and she steps through, finding herself in the same place. Leo is still there, crying, and Mira walks toward him, saying she came back to find out who is trying to kill him in the future so she can save him. The next day, they start looking for the person who will eventually try to kill Leo. They discover that the killer comes from a good family, and his father is a dermatologist. Mira sees this as an opportunity and disguises herself with makeup to look like she has a skin condition. She visits the doctor, who prescribes some medicine, but Mira tries to warn him that his son needs better guidance, as he will grow up to do bad things. The doctor is confused and refers her to a psychologist, thinking she's crazy. The next day, Leo finds out Mira went to the hospital and begins to scold her, saying she should have told him. Mira then tells him the truth. "I came from the future, but this time I came back willingly. I saw that in the future you will be killed by the doctor's son, but the son is still a child now, so we must save him before he becomes a murderer." Leo reassures her, saying, "Don't worry, I won't leave you." Rohan arrives, and Mira tells him everything. They decide to go and see the boy to observe his behavior. When they reach the boy's home, his mother opens the door and welcomes them, saying they came to thank the doctor for treating Mira. They then ask to meet the boy, and his mother says he's always playing under the bed, as he's a troublesome child that no one can control. She invites them inside to greet him. As they go up to his room, and his mother knocks on the bed for him to come out, Mira and Leo freeze in shock when they finally see the boy, realizing that their suspicions were right. Then the mother comes out holding a toy. Mira and Leo freeze, and they become speechless as they don't know what to do. Shortly after, the father arrives, and he calls his wife. When she comes, she explains that they have guests who came to thank them. As soon as the doctor sees them, he is shocked and says, "Come outside so we can talk privately." Once outside, they ask him how his wife could show up with a rolling pin, claiming that Leo is their son. The father says, "I will tell you everything." He explains that they were once a happy family who loved each other deeply, but they couldn't have children and remain childless. So they adopted a young boy from an orphanage named Karen. Karen was a good boy who excelled in school, always ranking first, and they loved him dearly, treating him like their own son. Later, the wife became pregnant, and they were thrilled. Even Karen was happy because he was going to have a sibling to play with. One day, while getting up for water, she tripped over some of Karen's toys, which caused her to fall, leading to the death of the child she was carrying. From that day on, his wife began treating Karen badly, and that's how she became the way she is now. Mira and Leo start to worry, thinking that this mistreatment might turn Karen into a dangerous person in the future. The next day is Mira's birthday, and Leo brings her a gift. He comes to give it to her, and we see that Mira is very happy. Lara asks, "How did you know today is my birthday?" Leo replies, "Mira told me. It's a day she would never forget because it's the day she was born." The mother and father wish her a happy birthday and tell her to ask for whatever she wants, and they will make it happen. Mira remembers another birthday when she was sitting alone, feeling sad because it was the day her family died. She says, "I haven't seen my mother for a long time, but I would have loved for her to be here. Since you're here with me, it feels like you're my mother, and you're the best gift I have." She embraces her, and we see how happy she is. The next day, Mira and Rohan are at home, and they want to know more about Karen. They decide that Leo should meet with the doctor to find Karen and learn who his future opponent might be. Meanwhile, Mira receives a call from the doctor's wife. She tells Mira that she knows they want information on Karen and says, "Karen is a bad person, and I have proof that he's dangerous. If you want to know more, meet me at the place I tell you, alone." Mira agrees and leaves. The next day, Leo meets the doctor to talk, and the doctor says, "I know you don't trust me, but in the future, your son will become a cold-blooded killer responsible for the deaths of many people. I don't want anything from you, but I need to meet him." The father is furious, saying, "My son is a good person, and everyone can attest to that. Since the day he was born, he has not harmed anyone. To prove this, I will let you meet him, and you'll see for yourself that he's a good person." Suddenly, the doctor gets a call, and he is told that his wife is driving a car alone. He panics, fearing she might crash or harm someone. The father is shocked, wondering how she could be driving when she doesn't know how. Meanwhile, the mother is driving toward where Mira is standing. Her eyes are filled with malice, and she says, "I have to kill you now." She drives the car aggressively, aiming to run Mira over, but Rohan's car blocks her. Both cars crash, and Rohan steps out, bleeding, barely able to move. Mira rushes to him, trying to check his condition, but he faints. They rush him to the hospital, and we see both the mother and Rohan in critical condition. At the hospital, the doctor comes out and tells the father, "I did everything I could, but it was her fate. May God have mercy on her soul." The father breaks down, crying and furious. He attacks Leo and Mira, saying, "Since the day you came into our lives, everything has gone wrong. You've cursed us." Mira faints from stress, and Leo doesn't know what to do. On one side is Rohan, on the other is the father and his wife, and now there's Mira. Then the doctor comes home, and we see that he is very confused and doesn't know what to do. He is sitting alone somewhere. Then, Karen arrives at the house, and we see that he is controlling everything. He tells the mother to take the car and kill Mira. At that moment, another version of Karen appears and says, "Who are you? And how did you get here?" The older Karen is startled, realizing that he is talking to someone who isn't supposed to be there. We find out that this younger Karen is also from the future, just like Mira. The young Karen confronts the older one, saying, "Why did you kill my mother? Who else do you want to kill?" The older Karen responds, "You're still just a child and people mock you. You are useless, but I'm here to restore your honor and make everyone fear you." As they argue, the father comes in with 2 cups of tea, unaware of what is happening. The younger Karen is amazed by the older Karen's power, realizing that he can control anyone and make them do his bidding. Meanwhile, we see Mira in the hospital with Leo by her side. She wakes up and immediately asks about Rohan. Leo tells her that the doctor said Rohan is out of danger and could wake up at any time. Mira smiles with relief and says, "Leo, I'm hungry." But as Leo goes to get food, he notices that Mira has left. He understands what's happening and rushes to Rohan, where Sally is taking care of him. Rohan asks, "Where's Mira?" Leo replies, "She left because she felt her presence caused too much harm." Elsewhere, Karen is reading a medical report and is shocked that he's in good health. However, after returning from the past, his condition has worsened. Karen is approaching, feeling less than himself and afraid of his father. He says, "Father, let go of the control you have over me." But then he adds, "Don't worry, just do what I say and keep Mira safe. I won't harm my father, and I won't do anything." At that moment, we see Karen, who is still a child, and he does not agree with what the older Karen is doing. Thus, he tries to behave as if the older Karen is not present. Then we see Rohan and Sally attempting to bring Mira and Leo together. They meet in a place where they play a war game, making it seem like they encounter each other unexpectedly. Leo is moving close to Sally in front of Mira to make her feel jealous. Mira gets very angry and wishes to hit Leo, but pretends not to. They agree that in the game, they will form teams. Rohan and the game character, along with another named Rago and Lara, will be one team, while Mira, Sally, and Leo form another team. At the beginning of the battle, Sally hides away, leaving both of them. They play the game until they win. Then they come home and Mira is speaking about it, realizing that their plan has failed, but they do not know what is coming. Karen has discovered everything they are doing, and he says, "Don't be happy. These 2 days are all that remain in your life." Rohan says, "When they gather, I feel like someone is following us every day," and they agree that Mira should not walk alone. As they find a solution, Sally invites them to a show she has tomorrow, and she leaves. As she heads home, she feels someone is following her and quickly runs inside, locking the door. Then the guy named Rago, who was with them at the game, calls her. He says, "I've found you," and he adds, "I want to meet you outside." Sally feels scared and refuses, wondering how he is acting. The next day, Leo and Mira attend the show that Seali is hosting, and they are waiting for her to come out. Rohan is meeting with Seali before the show to reduce his anxiety, and at the same time, the show is starting. The person performing is Rago, but Sally is doing a part that she told Leo and Mira she would play. Rohan is called, and he is informed that the show has started. He says he will come out, but he hears a noise. When he looks, he sees the real person supposed to perform, and he is dressed up. Rohan realizes something is wrong. At the same time, the show is ongoing, and Rago is saying something incomprehensible. All day he has been talking about death. Suddenly, he pulls out a knife, intending to kill Sayali, but Rohan intervenes and stops him before he can do so. Sayali is taken to the hospital after it is seen that she was given anesthesia. They wait until she wakes up. When she does, they return home and discover from the soldiers that Rago is controlling someone, and they do not know what to do, as they have never seen the person attacking them, nor have they even heard his voice. On the other hand, Karen is saying that every day his situation is getting worse, so he must take revenge and kill. He asks, "Where is the little Mira?" He means Lara. "If I get the chance, I will kidnap Lara so that the task is easier for him." The younger Karen agrees, but he says he wants to meet his father first. He goes to his father, and we see that he is locked up somewhere, and his situation is not okay. He wants to get out of the situation he is in, but he does not know what to do. The next day, Leo visits Mira at the cafe, wanting to talk to her. When she asks what he is eating, he replies, "Anything you make is delicious." Mira goes out and brings him some spicy food, and we see he is scared but eats it. The younger Karen is with his father, who gives him food. His father suddenly wakes up and says, "Take me away from here." He says, "I will get you out of here," and he goes to the older Karen, giving him a cup. He says, "Whatever you want, we will do." When the younger Karen wants to drink, he realizes that the cup contains something. Just when he wants to hit the younger Karen, he grabs the one who is being controlled, and he has the power to control it. He takes the key and opens it for his father, and they come out. He also calls the soldiers and informs them that he has kidnapped them, and they are taken to prison. Leo learns about this and feels happy that Leo is going to live in the future. Leo takes Mira to a beautiful place and says, "I want to be with you for the rest of your life, to live together in one place." Mira agrees, and we see they are very happy. Days later, while they are together, they believe that all their troubles are over, but unfortunately, Karen is coming out of prison, and he has Mira and Leo under guard. One day, he calls Mira and tells her what he said earlier about the future. Mira gets shocked and realizes that the older Karen from the future is here. She tells Leo what has happened, that they are now fighting the older Karen. The younger Karen has no power, and they agree that Sally and Rohan will stay in one house so that Karen can kill someone among them alone. A week later, we see they are in the house, preparing to go out. Even Karen does not talk to Mala. Then they decide to leave and go to school, but the three of them are leaving. Mira goes to her house and they say, "Don't open the door until we say the word we know." Then they come out as they head to school, and Karen is passing by wearing a mask, but they do not recognize him. He arrives at their house, and Mira knocks on the door. When Mira asks, "Who is it?" there is silence. He does not respond, and she realizes it is Karen. She calls Leo, saying, "Karen has come." Leo gets startled and fears that Karen will do something to Mira. Then Mira turns away from the door. Karen starts to speak, saying, "We still haven't met. Don't think that this bad door is stopping me. Just leave me alone because I want to play with you, Lee." He says, "I left a gift at the door. I hope you will love the gift." At the same moment, Leo and Rohan arrive, and when they enter, they see Mira sitting at the door, feeling scared. They all sit together to see the gift that Karen brought. We see that they are very frightened, but Leo is holding himself together and opens the gift. He sees chicken and a note. When they open the note, there is a question: who would you choose, the younger one or the older one? But they do not understand the question at all. He continues speaking. At night, when Leo and Mira are sitting somewhere, they are afraid that something might happen. At that moment, Karen calls. He tells them he has kidnapped Lara, and if you don't come to the place I tell you, Lara will be killed. Leo gets startled and they decide not to tell Rohan anything, and when they arrive at the place indicated, they see Karen holding Lara, and he threatens her. He approaches Mira with a big stick and tells her, "Hit Leo with the stick until he dies. I want to see if you will choose yourself or the one you love." While saying this, he adds, "If you don't do what I say, Lara will die, and you will die too." Mira refuses, saying, "I am willing to die myself." Leo protests, asking her to hit him. He says, "We would be happy if you die in our hands." He hands her the stick, and Mira hits Leo, and we see Karen very happy. Then Leo falls to the ground and cannot stand up. Mira starts crying and fears that he has died. Karen is enjoying this moment. Karen approaches Mira, mocking her, but unexpectedly, Leo stands up and attacks him. He throws the knife and strikes him, but Karen is powerful, grabbing Leo's hand as he is about to break it. At that moment, Mira rushes to Lara to untie her, saying, "I don't know what is happening." Lara is crying. Mira tells her to leave. Meanwhile, Leo is enduring the beating from the cat, and Karen is holding the stick, striking you in the stomach, while Leo falls to the ground, suffocating you. At that moment, Mira arrives and kills Karen, but Karen is unaffected by this. He begins to choke Mira, and Leo tries with all his might to stop him, but it's of no use. They both fall into memories of the past, the beautiful moments they once shared together. We see that Mira is about to die, but suddenly, it's the year 2025, and we see Mira lying in a hospital bed with her mother and father beside her. When she wakes up, she asks about Leo and Karen. Her mother is shocked by the name she mentions and tells her that she had been in an accident and was in a coma for days. We realize that when she was on the verge of death, she returned to life. Karen's future also changed as he became a good person. Then she goes to see Leo, who is overjoyed when he sees her. He says to her, "Let's assume what we went through was just a dream, and let's live a happy life together once again."